Daniel adjusted the strap of his worn lunch bag as he walked slowly toward the cafeteria. The smell of fresh coffee and warm soup drifted through the hallway, mixing with the sounds of laughter echoing from inside. To most employees, Friday lunch was the highlight of the workweek. To Daniel, it was simply 30 quiet minutes before returning to work. He greeted everyone he passed with the same gentle smile. "Morning, Mr. Brooks." "Morning, Daniel." Some nodded politely. Others barely looked up from their phones. He never took it personally. As he reached the cafeteria doors, he noticed something unusual. People were smiling too much. Conversations seemed forced. A few employees quickly looked away when they saw him, whispering to one another before trying to hide their laughter. Daniel had seen that look before. Years earlier, when he worked as a school custodian, students had played similar tricks on classmates. The expressions were always the same, the excitement of people waiting for someone else's embarrassment. He quietly wondered who today's victim would be. He hoped it wasn't anyone who had already had a difficult week. Inside, the cafeteria buzzed with conversation. Every table appeared full except one near the center of the room. It stood out immediately. Fresh flowers. 2 neatly arranged trays. Paper hearts taped to the sides. A small folded card that simply read, "Reserved." Daniel sighed softly. "So that's what this is," he murmured. He could have turned around. He could have taken his lunch outside. But something told him someone else was about to walk into an uncomfortable situation. Just then, the cafeteria doors opened again. Emily Carter stepped inside. She paused almost immediately. Her eyes scanned the crowded room, searching for a place to sit. Every table seemed occupied. Several employees deliberately avoided making eye contact, pretending they hadn't seen her. Then her gaze landed on the decorated table. Confusion crossed her face. She looked around again, almost hoping another seat would suddenly appear. None did. A ripple of quiet laughter spread across the room. Emily's cheeks flushed. She knew. She didn't know exactly what the joke was, but she knew she was part of it. Her fingers tightened around her lunch tray. For a brief moment she considered leaving. She had done it before. Eating alone in her car felt far less painful than becoming someone's entertainment. As she turned toward the exit, Daniel noticed the tiny shake in her shoulders. Without hesitation, he walked over. "Excuse me," he said gently. Emily looked up, surprised. "I think they saved this table for us." She forced a weak smile. "I think so too. It doesn't seem very kind." "No." Daniel glanced around the room. Dozens of people were watching. Some had phones pointed toward them. Others struggled to contain their laughter. He understood everything now. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had planned every detail. For just a second, sadness crossed his face, not because he was embarrassed, but because so many adults found joy in humiliating others. Then he looked back at Emily. "What do you say?" he asked warmly. "We don't give them the ending they're expecting." Emily blinked. "What do you mean?" "We eat lunch. Just lunch." He smiled. "Best rebellion I can think of." For the first time that day, Emily let out a genuine laugh. It was quiet, almost uncertain, but real. Daniel pulled out the chair for her as naturally as if they had been friends for years. "Ladies first." She sat down slowly. The entire cafeteria became strangely silent. Employees exchanged confused glances. This wasn't how the prank was supposed to go. Someone whispered, "Why aren't they freaking out?" Another frowned. "They are supposed to be embarrassed." Instead, Daniel calmly opened his lunchbox. On top sat Lily's folded note. Emily accidentally noticed it. She looked away immediately, not wanting to invade his privacy. Daniel smiled as he unfolded it. "My daughter hides these in my lunch almost every day." Emily tilted her head. "What does it say?" He handed her the small piece of paper. She read the words slowly. You're my hero, Daddy. For several seconds she couldn't speak. That's beautiful. Daniel carefully folded it again. She's the reason I get up every morning. You have a daughter? I do. 8 years old. Smart enough to beat me at board games and stubborn enough to remind me when I forget to smile. Emily laughed again, this time a little louder. Across the room, several employees lowered their phones. This conversation wasn't awkward. It was genuine. Daniel took a bite of his sandwich before asking, "How long have you been working here?" "Almost 3 months. And how are they treating you?" Emily hesitated. She could lie. She usually did. But something about Daniel made pretending feel unnecessary. They're polite. He noticed the pause before the word. They are not always kind, are they? Emily looked down at her hands. No. Daniel nodded slowly. I figured. She looked surprised. How? Because kind people don't decorate tables to make strangers feel small. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The noisy cafeteria suddenly felt very far away. Instead of seeing a janitor and a shy accountant, they simply saw another human being who understood what it felt like to be overlooked. And without either of them realizing it, the people who had planned the cruel joke were beginning to feel something they hadn't expected at all. The silence that settled over the cafeteria felt heavier than anyone expected. The employees who had arranged the prank glanced at one another, waiting for something embarrassing to happen. Instead, Daniel and Emily continued talking as if the rest of the room no longer existed. Daniel asked about her work, and Emily admitted she genuinely enjoyed solving difficult financial problems. I've always liked numbers, she said with a small smile. They make sense. People, not always. Daniel nodded knowingly. I understand that. Emily looked at him curiously. You do? He smiled. When you're a janitor, people often look through you instead of at you. They talk while you're standing 2 feet away, as if you're invisible. I'm sorry. Don't be. Being invisible teaches you something important. What? You notice the people who feel invisible too. Emily lowered her eyes. No one had ever described her feelings so perfectly. For the first time since joining Ashford Financial, she felt understood. When lunch ended, Daniel stood up, gathered both trays, and carried them to the return counter before Emily could stop him. You didn't have to do that, she said. My mother taught me that whoever reaches the counter first carries both trays. Emily laughed. I like your mother already. You would have. Those four simple words carried a quiet sadness. Emily understood there was a story behind them, but she didn't ask. As they walked toward the cafeteria exit together, the room remained strangely silent. Several employees quickly put away their phones. Others suddenly found their lunches very interesting. Not one person laughed anymore. That evening, one of the prank organizers uploaded the video to social media. The caption read, "Office blind date goes terribly wrong." They expected thousands of laughing comments. Instead, the internet saw something completely different. Viewers watched a humble janitor pull out a chair for a nervous woman everyone else ignored. They watched him listen more than he spoke. They watched Emily slowly relax, smile, and laugh. Within 24 hours, the video had been viewed millions of times. The comments poured in. This man has more class than everyone else in that cafeteria. Protect Daniel at all costs. The people filming should be ashamed. Kindness is free. Why is it so rare? News websites began sharing the story. The company's public relations department was suddenly flooded with emails demanding to know why employees had been allowed to bully their coworkers. Senior management called an emergency meeting. The CEO watched the entire video in silence. When it ended, he turned toward the human resources director. Find out exactly what happened. The internal investigation moved quickly. Several employees admitted they had planned the prank. Others confessed they knew about it but had said nothing. Watching the video again made many of them realize how cruel it had actually been. Meanwhile, Emily sat alone in her apartment that evening. She replayed the lunch over and over in her mind. Not the decorations. Not the whispers. Not the humiliation. She remembered the moment Daniel had smiled and said, "Let's disappoint them." For years she had believed kindness always came with conditions. Daniel had expected nothing in return. She opened an old journal she hadn't touched in months. One sentence stared back at her. "No one chooses me unless it's to laugh." Slowly, she picked up a pen. She crossed out the sentence. Beneath it she wrote, "Today someone chose to sit beside me because it was the right thing to do." Tears rolled down her cheeks. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of healing. The next morning, Daniel arrived before sunrise, as always. As he unlocked the maintenance closet, he noticed a small envelope taped to his cleaning cart. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for reminding me that I still matter." There was no signature. There didn't need to be. Daniel folded the note carefully and slipped it into his wallet beside Lily's latest drawing. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Emily stopped eating lunch alone. Not because everyone suddenly became her friend, but because Daniel always saved her a seat. Their conversations became the best part of the week. They exchanged books. Shared funny stories. Talked about Lily's school projects. Sometimes they sat quietly without saying much at all. The friendship slowly changed the atmosphere around them. Other employees began joining their table. People who had once laughed now listened. Some quietly apologized. Others admitted they had never realized how hurtful their behavior had been. Daniel accepted every sincere apology with grace. Holding on to anger, he said one afternoon, only makes your own heart heavier. Months later, the company held its annual employee recognition ceremony. Everyone expected awards for executives, managers, and top-performing sales teams. Instead, the CEO walked onto the stage carrying a remote control. "I'd like to show everyone a short video." The cafeteria footage appeared on the large screen. A deep silence filled the ballroom. This time, nobody laughed. Many couldn't even look at the screen. When the video ended, the CEO invited Daniel to the stage. Daniel looked completely bewildered. "I only clean the building," he whispered. The CEO smiled. "No, Daniel. You helped clean something much bigger." The audience listened carefully. This company measures productivity, profits, and performance every single day. But one man reminded us that character matters even more. The CEO handed Daniel a Crystal Award. "It is my honor to present our very first Kindness First Award." The ballroom erupted into applause. People rose to their feet. Some clapped through tears. Daniel looked overwhelmed. Then Emily quietly walked onto the stage. She hadn't planned to speak, but she asked for the microphone. Her hands trembled. "For most of my life," she began, "I believed I would always be remembered for the way I looked." She turned toward Daniel. "But one ordinary lunch taught me something extraordinary." She paused, wiping away tears. When everyone else saw someone to laugh at, Daniel saw someone worth knowing. The room became completely still. "He didn't rescue me because he felt sorry for me. He simply treated me like I mattered." Her voice broke. Sometimes that's enough to save a person. There wasn't a dry eye in the ballroom. Even the employees who had organized the prank quietly wiped away tears. After the ceremony, the company announced new policies promoting respect, inclusion, and workplace kindness. Training sessions became mandatory. Anonymous bullying complaints dropped dramatically over the following year. Daniel was promoted to facilities manager, giving him better hours and enough income to spend more evenings with Lily. Emily later became head of accounting, admired not only for her talent but also for the compassion she showed every new employee. Every Friday, no matter how busy life became, Daniel, Emily, and eventually Lily shared lunch together at the same cafeteria table. The flowers were gone. The paper hearts had long disappeared. But the table had become something far more meaningful. New employees often asked why everyone seemed to smile whenever they walked past it. The older staff always answered the same way. That's where one simple act of kindness reminded all of us what it truly means to be human. Because years later, nobody remembered the prank that was meant to humiliate two lonely people. They remembered the quiet janitor who chose compassion over embarrassment, and proved that one kind heart can change an entire room.